This girl is the ugly bitch. Don't trust. And she's like writing it, she's like, don't trust. Oh, I couldn't quote that in my school. We should have a mean girl. We should have a mean girls for midnight at a bar. Mean girls, dude. We should just have like a 2000s rom-com. Oh, I would win. Oh, I'm like, oh, cracks, knuckles, ready. Who's ready to fight? I'm ready to fight. Okay. This is not fair. He was just texting. I didn't know. We were just we did our thing, right? Do you want to go first? Sure. Yeah. Well, good afternoon, everyone. As you heard earlier today, that we do have a special session that will be starting 10 o'clock Monday morning. It's been a long road to get to this point, but you see Leader Hortman and myself, we are here together to just answer a few questions as things move through. The work that was done along with the governor, the other leaders of the caucus, nothing ever completely broke down. It just took a little bit longer than we anticipated. In the very tight margins that we have, separated by just one, so 101 Democrats in the legislature, 100 Republicans in the legislature. This work truly reflects coming together in a bipartisan way. As we go through with questions, you'll hear that not everybody is happy about every part of it, and that's to be expected. But by getting this work done, even though late, we are looking forward to Monday, getting things closed up, and then moving forward.
Sure. The last few days, we've been kind of sitting on the sidelines for the most part, while the Senate figured out how to get the budget agreement through the Senate. And I think we're both pleased that Senator Mark Johnson ended up at the table in an agreement, because now we know exactly how things will unfold in the Senate, rather than taking a chance that we would try to get things through and not be able to get things through. We also now know that there will be a bonding bill. And you have probably a lot of legitimate questions about where are the bills posted, and will there be hearings, and we are working to get all that information to you so that you have a link to the bill and the hearing. You're seeing that the transportation hearing is going on right now. I'm sure since you're missing that, you're going to watch that later to make sure you didn't miss anything there. But it's important that we communicate to you and that the public knows that there is plenty of time for the public to see everything that's in these bills before they're taken up. That being said, we are still waiting for 3 drafts to close. We're waiting for the final health bill to be posted. The data center bill that's a part of the new agreement that was reached last night, and what's the third one? Oh, the standalone UNDOC. So presumably you've been made aware that the agreement between Senator Murphy and Senator Johnson and the governor included the Senate Republicans authoring and providing the vast majority of the votes to pass the repeal of health care for undocumented adults, and that there will be a standalone data center bill, and there will be a bonding bill. And so since some of those pieces came together pretty late last night, that's why those aren't drafted yet. And I think that's all I wanted to say. We're mostly available for questions. We were here until about 1 something last night.
How convinced are you there are not other political landmines out there once you get into session? Let's take transportation, for instance. Counties had no idea about this shift in funds. Where did that come from? Are there going to be other surprises like that?
You know, with the issue on the county piece and the transportation bill, conversations as of yesterday, possibly even today, are going forward. As you heard, there is the hearing happening right now. If there would be any amendments that would go on to any of the bills that are so far posted, and the ones that are to come, would have to be agreed upon by all 4 leaders and the governor, and then those would be able to go on. But those issues, we heard from our counties right away a couple of days ago, and it is concerning, but our transportation co-chairs and then the chair and the Senate are doing some really good work trying to figure our way through. As far as other landmines, there could always be, but I feel confident in the agreements that we have.
And real quick,
Could I just say about transportation, this is a budget that anticipates a deficit in the out years. And so anytime you're passing a budget that's not just spending a surplus, but it is in fact anticipating a deficit, is going to have some hard choices, some tough and responsible choices that wouldn't be our first choice, but facing a shortfall of state revenues in fiscal 27, fiscal 28, we have to prepare for that. So when you look at the very small haircut that counties are getting in the transportation bill in the context of more than $800 million in cuts in growth in health and human services, $420 million in cuts in growth in education, it's a reasonable and responsible decision in light of what we're facing.
But that money was transferred to the Met Council, there were no hearings, nobody knew about this.
They're having a hearing right now, and as Leader Damas said, if there's any changes, it would have to be agreed to by 4 leaders and the governor. I don't anticipate any changes to these bills except for a few issues we kind of know are parked on the side of the road.
But is it fair to have a hearing after the decision has been made?
That is often how things unfold in the legislature, where there's a lot of different alternatives of how you can accomplish something. And when people finally can agree on what it is, that's when you have the public conversation.
So the counties are out of luck, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, what the House and Senate did in 2023 and the governor signed into law was a metro area sales tax that provided new revenue for transportation. And the deal in 2023 was that the counties would get 17% of it. The new deal is that counties are going to get 8.5% of it. They're still getting new revenue from the metro area sales tax, but because we have an anticipated shortfall in the general fund, they're not getting as much new money as they were going to get. It's still more than they were getting before.
I have a bigger picture question about this process. I know I'm new here, but I have to say, trying to follow how all of this is happening seems borderline impossible to me. And I'm here, I'm not a member of the general public who does have the right to be here. Like, things are happening behind closed doors, and these giant bills that are posted without explanation in different parts of a very complicated website. And can you please explain to me how this is the process and whether this works for the people of Minnesota? It's really disappointing and completely opaque.
Most of what is happening in the bills that are yet to be finished on Monday. So remember, we did pass a number of bills that the governor has already signed into law that were passed by the deadline. But a number of the provisions, almost all of them, have been heard in committees throughout the 5 months that we've been working together. I understand the frustration where we've gone from conference committees now into work groups, but each one of these areas are doing public walkthroughs. And so even though that may not be the perfect thing, they are public walkthroughs before they come to the floor of either the House or the Senate on Monday. This is why it's really important for all legislators to be available to their constituents. We hear from interest groups, and so although not perfect, we are trying to be as opaque or transparent as possible in what we're given, working under the conditions that we have.
We have these policy bills that were passed or heard in committee 4 months ago, and then they disappeared, and then they come back at the last minute. Why were they not passed months ago? Why build everything up to these giant omnibus bills that have both policy and budget?
Well, I will say from our caucus's perspective, what I have always told our chairs is set your bills free, right? Like when you hear a bill, pass it out of your committee, let it move on. The more standalones we have, the better. I think sometimes what's difficult for chairs of committees, especially in this tied House, is wanting to make sure that there's kind of parity and there's fairness between Democratic proposals and Republican proposals. So there's more policy than we would like in these budget bills, but they are mostly budget bills. And almost all policy costs money. So when you do put together the budget bill, you have to have some of the policy, especially the policy that costs money. It is a frustrating process. There's the analogy of making sausage, and that is how it kind of always is. It's a little bit frustrating in terms of it's not a very clean or pretty process.
What is in the data centers bill?
That's a great question. We know this. It was 2
As
in the
you're
morning.
looking for the details, because I didn't bring them with me, in there we have extended the ability for the data centers for 35 years or till 2042 for the exemptions. And so that's part of it. If you want to add to a little bit more of what's in there, some environmental things and a few other things, the Data Center Coalition had been doing some work. Go ahead.
So the existing law is if you build a data center in Minnesota, that you get a tax exemption for software, hardware, and electricity for 20 years or until 2042, whichever is first. After all of the special session bills are signed, the electricity exemption will go away, but the time period will be 35 years or 2042, whichever is later instead of whichever is earlier. And in addition, there will be a series of environmental and energy guardrails that will be in the bill that the working group was working on all the way through. And this was a pretty hot debate in the tax committee. I didn't watch the tax conference committee proceedings, but it was reported to me that, you know, there was a very strong push by Senate DFL, House GOP, and the governor to achieve some movement on data centers. We finally relented, the House DFL, when it became apparent that this was how we would get both a bonding bill and a complete budget agreement passed.
The bonding bill is $700 million. That was the dollar amount that we had talked about from the very start, agreed upon, and then they will be finishing their spreadsheet today, so the revisers can get to work on that probably late tonight or tomorrow morning. It does look like there will be just over $250 million that'll go to roads and wastewater, some of those important things. There's not a lot of, there's not nonprofits, there's not special interest areas per se, but it is a very good, basic bipartisan bonding bill, and we're pleased that that will make its way through.
So, Dave, if your statement about the special session mentioned reforms to earn sick and safe time, what are those and when will the language on those be released?
The language on those, that should be released fairly soon. If you're familiar at all with the bill that made its way through the Senate, there's some things around the edges as far as the number of days required for a reason, you know, asking employers can ask for a reason instead of 3 days, it's now 2 days. It allows for an ability, if there's shift work, to kind of move the shift work around a little bit to cover, and then there is taking into consideration how many hours are left till the end of the year, and how employers figure that. Very important but small workaround. It'll be helpful for our employers and the businesses to be able to do the record keeping and the keeping track that is so needed for that. Unfortunately, we were not able to get meaningful changes in paid family medical leave. The only thing we were able to secure in this was the earlier agreement moving from that tax cap 1.2 down to 1.1. We looked for some other relief for our businesses, but under the agreement, we weren't able to secure more than that.
On the earned safe and sick, I can point you to the exact language. So there was a Judy Seeberger bill that passed the Minnesota Senate, Senate File 2300, the second engrossment. So we agreed to Section 3, which is a notice section, Section 4, which is a documentation section, Section 5, which has to do with replacement workers, and then lines 6.1 through 6.7 of that bill.
But not exemptions for micro businesses?
No.
Correct.
Okay.
Is this the order you're gonna take the bills up, or is this just a laundry list?
We haven't decided that order yet.
We're working on that.
Because the undocumented immigrant issue is letter A. Seems to me that's going to be one of the toughest votes. Are you both confident you've got the votes for this?
Yeah, I am confident that the bill that you're referring to, Tom, is the bill that will end the insurance coverage for undocumented people age 18 and above. We do have the votes in the House for that, and I'm confident the Senate will be able to pass that also.
That includes the Posse Caucus, are they?
You know, we need 68 votes to pass a bill. Out of the House, we know that, and we know we have 68 votes.
Speaker Davis, on that point, you had mentioned that the only way your caucus would get behind a standalone bill is if there was some contingency language.
Yes.
To ensure the governor's signature.
Sure.
What is that language?
So that language will be posted in the health bill, but what we have is that the initial bill, as I just mentioned, is a standalone bill. The contingency will ride in the health finance bill, and basically what it will say is that the funding for the Department of Health in the entirety is contingent on the passage of the other bill that ends that coverage age 18 and above for undocumented insurance. So it's not just the passage, but the enactment of that bill too. So that's our contingency, kind of the safeguard. In the room, the 4 leaders and the governor, we signed and we agreed to that being the case. This just lends that little bit extra layer of insurance to help with caucuses that maybe were a little bit concerned.
And it sounds like, Speaker Emerita, that you might be the 68th vote. if
Could
that's
be.
what it takes.
Could be.
How difficult is that vote for your caucus? But you said you hate it, so how difficult is it?
Right, well, we made an agreement, and, you know, when I sign my name on a sheet of paper and I commit us to take an action, I'm committing, you know, the votes we need to enact that policy into law. It is not the trade that we would have made, it's not the state budget we would have put together, but it is a compromise. And we have to keep state government functioning. We have to keep funding for all the other people who get health care. Certainly undocumented adults are deserving of health care as well. But in order to get a budget agreement that funds the government for the state of Minnesota, this is a compromise that I was willing to make. And if it requires just my vote, then that's how we'll get it done.
Can you talk about briefly the layoff notices that will go out on Monday?
We just got an update that perhaps they can wait until Tuesday at 7 a.m. I think there's been some outreach to the unions that represent the state employees. And I think the folks, you know, who are the beneficiaries of the contract or the co-parties to the contract with the state of Minnesota are saying, you know, basically, we don't really want you to tell our employees they're going to be laid off and then the next day tell them they're not going to be laid off. So I think that it could be that the notices may not have to go out if we finish our business by 7 o'clock on Tuesday morning. That's.
And then caucus, or caucus each bill, or how's that all going to work?
The intent is to come in at 10 and go right into the first bill and work our way all the way through. We've been very clear with all 4 of us as leaders that we will pre-caucus those bills as needed throughout the weekend. And yeah, we will make sure the work's done so we can get right to the work at hand on the floor.
Is there a discussion to ask your members to limit their floor speeches so that you can get this done on time, so that there's not, someone's not talking for 2 hours?
Great question. You know, we have talked already in our caucus going forward is we need to get this work done. And there's tools that we all have. We have social media. We can record early. People will want to speak on the issues that are important to them, the chairs and the committees also. But there has been no limit of how long they can speak. I want to make sure that each member feels that they can be heard in the best way that they want to carry that forward.
Are we going to handle the no amendments that was part of the agreement? They can't, because they're not conference committee reports, somebody can bring an amendment, right?
Right, and we cannot technically enter into an agreement of how we're going to vote or to constrain our members' constitutional rights to bring amendments. It's just we're going to discourage them. I don't think that they will be successful. In order to preserve the agreement, they cannot be successful. And one thing I want to add is that our members, if they have things to say about the bills, they can always come here before the floor and tell you exactly what they think, rather than doing it up on the floor.
Just to play devil's advocate, it says you must conclude by 7 a.m. Tuesday, but this is not a constitutional must. This is an agreement.
This is an
must.
agreement.
Technically, you could recess and come back later, right? You don't have to finish and go sign and die by 7 a.m.
In politics, as in life, you are only as good as your word. We have given our word. We have signed our name to that document, and I believe all the people who sign that document intend to live up to their word.
Whether you're done or not.
We will finish.
We'll get the work done.
Time for one more.
On the issue of amendments, 14 bills have you caucused already for both of you?
We have caucused over half of them.
You guys have a grade for yourselves for this session?
Oh, don't know. That's not.
Do
for
you
us.
have a grade for us?
Yeah.
You turned in your work late.
Yes.
Not everybody likes most of the stuff. I don't know. C minus? What did you guys?
I don't think.
The job of the session is to fund state government, and I think there are things in this budget for people to be really happy about. One of the things I'm most happy about is the automatic increases now we have built in to the E12 system, for example. So prior to 2023, the school districts would have to come down here and battle to get money to bring home. And now it is automatic that they will get an inflationary increase, and it's capped at 3%. So in the next biennium, there's a locked-in more than $1 billion increase. In the biennium after that, there's a locked-in more than $1 billion increase. That is really substantial new investment, additional investment. And that is an area where Democrats and Republicans are really united, that we want our school districts to have resources.
I think the other thing that's important is looking at where Minnesota families are with affording their lives too. We wanted to make sure that we weren't just increasing taxes across the board, and that lent to some of the hard decisions that we found ourselves needing to make. But this is the largest spending cut biennium to biennium that we have had, and we're making sure that Minnesota families aren't feeling that initial pressure from the state.
Last question right there.
Thank you. You mentioned that you can't truly prohibit your members from adding amendments, but assuming this agreement holds, it consolidates a lot of power in the leadership that amendments don't get on unless all 4 caucuses have agreed to them. I'm wondering if you can address that, if you think that that is the way that representative government should function.
All of our members have had a chance to speak to the issues that have come up in their committees. They've been able to author bills. We've got next year that they can continue doing that work. So this isn't an attempt to keep people quiet in any way, but we do have to fund state government, and this is what we're working toward. But members can definitely be heard.
Is there agreement on a tax bill? There was widespread opposition.
Yes.
To the tax. There is agreement.
Yes.
And rest everybody.
Is it the skinny tax bill?
It is not the skinny tax bill as originally defined.
So put on a little weight.
It did put on a little weight.
So just to be real clear on that, and then we'll take off. But there were a number of non-controversial items or no cost items that were adopted in the tax conference committee. So there's TIF districts that were extended, and there's a lot of like language things. So anything that the tax conference committee moved that was either low cost or no cost and was not controversial will be in an amendment that will be posted as soon as it's drafted. And we can make sure that that spreadsheet that the leaders signed last night is posted on the sheet where we list all of the drafts. And what we'll keep working to do is make sure that you have a clear link to the hearings on the language, and that you can find the language itself and the spreadsheets.
Cannabis tax increase in there?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It does.
It does, okay. Thanks.
It will.
It will.
Yes.
Okay, sounds
It
good.
will.
I figured, but, yeah.
Everybody thinks it will, everybody.
Okay, sounds good. Good question. The sheriff's room.
One tax bill.
What the sheriffs were talking about yesterday, when they wanted the farm bill.
All those that have
The state tax is always how they put it in.
Yeah, they said it was expected to be the bottom. Yeah. Yep.
The skinny tax bill was
Skinny tax bill has been hating those. The skinny tax bill has